Alright, welcome back to my bathroom. Most of my videos are in the shop, but today I've got a higher calling. It is bathroom repair. So along the seal here, I've got water leaking out, which leads me to believe that the wax gasket below this is blown out. So I'm going to go ahead and take these two bolts out and try to remove this toilet from here, which creates, a series of different tasks that you have to do. The first one is to get the water out of the toilet. If you watch Rich Terthulia on Ask This Old House, he will tell you to get a sponge, stick your sponge in there and put it into a bucket. I am going to be more civilized. Use my oil change extractor to vacate the water out of there. Let me go ahead and get that set up and I'll show you how that works. So this has two means of operation. One is through pneumatic. I can hook this up to my air compressor, or the other one is this bicycle style pump handle. So let me, I don't know if I'll be able to get this in my shot. Pin this down here. Alright, let's stay. Alright, we can see that's sort of in there. So it's vacuuming everything out of there. Alright, so that's dry now. That wasn't very tight. Alright, so I'm just sliding this putty knife through. This is very tedious, but I want to take my time because you do not want to bust this sucker. Alright, she's moving. Alright, the big reveal. Alright, so I'm not sure what I'm looking at now. That wax gasket seems to have been, I don't know. Let me get that cleaned up and we'll get a better look at it. Now that was never into anything, I don't believe. This one was locked in. Alright, well that probably could have been part of our problem. This flange is busted right here. Alright, this is officially a nightmare. There are no screws holding that flange in. I can see, I think that's the clear PVC solvent down there. And you can see the front flange is broken in that right corner. And I just watched a YouTube tutorial and they said to get a wood chisel and a jab saw and go to town and cut this fitting out of the inside of this. So I've got an old shop towel tied to a piece of tarred twine that's going to help keep the PVC chips and everything in case I drop a wrench or tool or something down there. Keep me from fishing for it. So let me go ahead and get started on cutting this thing out. I'm going to use a hammer and chisel. Yeah, so it's starting to come up, the top section of it. So it'll just keep, it's a little tedious, and if you work your way around Some parts are easier to cut through than others, so you sort of have to keep working your way through it. I don't know if all these flanges are the same, but anyway, that was not as painful as I thought it would be. The top of the flange off, and now I need to cut the inside. And the saw that I'm going to use to do that was, was quite serendipitous that I was cleaning the shop up this weekend and I found this handle, and it just, you can chuck a Sawzall blade in the end. So I'm going to come through and try to finesse out this interior portion of the pipe. Ha ha, look at that crap. Lazy plumber didn't use much glue. Alright, so I've got it cleaned up, and I've got this closet flange. I'm going to glue it in the hole, and I'm not going to bolt it down. I've talked to a buddy of mine who's a building inspector, and he said that gluing it down will be sufficient, and then I'll go ahead and knock this Easy Tap out. I don't like this design. Not because I know what I'm doing, it just, it's not intuitive to me. But I'm going to measure up the bolts and make sure it's the right orientation. I've got a little bit of wiggle room, but I want to make sure that the toilet isn't cattywampus or anything. So, alright, so I measured out from the wall so that the bolts were the same distance from the wall, so they should be perpendicular. And then I've got them, I wanted to sort of seat them back here, but the old one failed because it didn't have, the benefit of this section here, so it sort of snapped off. So I've got it seated so these will be maximized here. And then there'll be some wiggle room on the toilet because those holes are quite a bit larger than these little 3/8/16 bolts or whatever. Those might even be 1/4 20. I don't know what size. 5/16, 18 maybe. So anyway, I'm going to glue this sucker in place and we're committed at that point. Oh, to keep my orientation correct, I went ahead and indexed this ring with the mark here. Oops, sorry. Indexed it with the marker here, so when I take it off to glue it, it will go back in the same spot. Yeah, extreme close up. Now the PVC cement isn't actually cement, it actually melts the PVC together. But I don't want to do that good of a job melting it together. I want to. Alright, so we'll give that a minute or two to dry. By minute I meant 5 seconds. So I guess you just smash these things out.
Oh, the whole thing comes off?
I guess so. Alright, I chose a rubber gasket because I was worried that a wax gasket, if I set the toilet down too early or did something wrong, that it would deform it and it wouldn't rebound. But then this one I would go ahead and should rebound if I set the toilet down early or need to situate it or whatever, so hopefully this works. So I just had some pieces of plastic. We'll find, sort of go around and tuck these in so the toilet doesn't, you can see it, how it rocks now. And I think that's what happened, the toilet rocked and then the wax gasket gave up because it didn't reform to the space. So, alright, so there it is. I'm slow, so I'm not saying that this couldn't be done faster. I just back and forth to the store a couple times, and so on and so forth, and a couple YouTube videos. And again, you know, YouTube is such a great resource for things. Hopefully this helps somebody along the line. And anyway, I'll report back if this fails or whatever. But it should be alright. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. It will still remain to be the best seat in the house. Alright, thanks for watching. Have a good night.